Hi, this is Zambia Today. I'm your host, Faith Katai. Zambia Today is a program that keeps you informed on various government policies and programs. On 8th March 2024, President Hakainde Hichilema, while gracing Women's Day commemoration in Livingstone, Mr. Hichilema gave a call for proportional representation as a remedy to the current low levels of engagement, participation, and representation of women in Parliament and the Cabinet. He further cited the youth and persons with disabilities as social groups that would benefit from such constitutional and electoral reforms. To this effect, the Center for Young Leaders in Africa, Silas Zambia, on behalf of the civil society organization Coalition, have proposed a mixed member electoral system model to be used to achieve the proportional representation of the youth, women, and persons with disability in political leadership that the head of state alluded to. Let's watch a clip by the head of state where he made the call.
Madam Mutali, Madam Sinkamba, let me say something that is one of the reasons why there are fewer women in decision-making positions. It's not the design of the president, the gender minister, myself, no. It's a constitutional flaw. It's a legal flaw. When you have politics that were so violent, just 2 years and 8 months ago, politics were so violent, women could not run for elective positions. When you have a social media that is so aggressive, so abusive against women and society as a whole, many women shy away from running for public office. That is why this government, this party, want to bring and sustain civility in politics so that more women can become councillors, more women can become mayors and council chairpersons, more women can become MPs, and therefore they can become ministers.
Welcome back. We can see in the clip that the head of state encourages women, youth, and the physically challenged persons to take part in political leadership. To this effect, we have in the studio Mike Mvula, governance expert from the Center for Young Leaders in Africa, Silas Zambia, who is going to explain in detail about the mixed member electoral system. In short, it's called MMES. Madam, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Faith. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you to everybody that is watching the show.
Okay, so to kickstart the program, would like you to explain to us the mandate for Silas Zambia Center for Young Leaders in Africa.
Okay, the Center for Young Leaders in Africa is an institution or an organization that was created to create a platform for young people's inclusion, for young people's participation, for young people's representation in political spaces and decision-making processes across all levels, either at political party level, also in elective positions. It's basically promoting the inclusion and participation of young people in decision-making.
Okay, so what is this mixed member electoral system that you are proposing as civil society organizations?
The MMES is a system that we are proposing where we are going to use the current electoral system that we have in Zambia at parliamentary and local government level, which is the first past the post or the simple majority type of electoral system. However, MMES seeks to include another type, like the president had mentioned, proportional representation. And we saw this MMES appear for the first time in Constitution Amendment Bill number 10 of 2019. And then we see it again show itself up in the 8th National Development Plan. So it's basically just a system, an electoral system that combines more than one type of an electoral system. And in this regard, in the Zambian context, we are looking at combining the first past the post with proportional representation.
Okay, so is this model, the mixed member electoral system, a catalyst to increasing the number of women, the youth, and the physically challenged persons in terms of political representation?
Definitely, it is. If you look back, for instance, to the amendment, Constitution Amendment Bill number 10 of 2019, you realize that like many times we have made recommendations to change our electoral system and advocate or desire to include proportional representation, we have not specified what kind of model we are envisaging. Because proportional representation is not one type. There's two types of proportional representation. There's the parallel proportional representation, which is what we are advocating for, which is slightly different from the traditional proportional representation that we know. A case and example I would like to make is the way South Africa holds their elections. We are not advocating for the kind of model that South Africa is using now. Ours is a non-compensatory type of proportional representation, where we are looking at having those 150 constituencies that we have, the 156 rather that we have, maintained as they are. If Zambians feel that number needs to increase from the 156 under first past the post to a number that they'll choose, our recommendation is that we maintain that status quo. However, we are seeking to increase that number by having reserved seats for these three marginalized groups that we are talking about: the women, the youth, and the persons with disabilities. And it is a catalyst that is going to promote inclusion in the sense that it now compels political parties and like institutions to ensure that they have persons to fill in these positions for them to actually contest for any position of election.
Great. Are we expecting a positive impact from this model?
I should say so. I should agree, because if we were not expecting any positive from it, it wouldn't show itself up in the amendment, Constitutional Amendment Bill number 10. Although it failed, we see it now showing itself again in the 8th National Development Plan under the Good Governance Environment pillar in the plan. And I am aware that there has been some efforts that are being made, though they are not very clear, that the government is making to ensure that the MMES becomes a reality. And you can also attest to the fact that the president agrees to this assertion, because he himself mentions that if we are going to guarantee representation of these people, there's going to be affirmative action. And proportional representation is one of those measures that guarantee that participation.
Awesome. Mike, I would like you to elaborate more on how this MMES model works.
Okay, so like I mentioned, this model, maybe let me put a disclaimer. The model that we are advocating for is not specifically stated in the 8th National Development Plan. It was also not elaborated in the Bill 10. And I say that because we took the initiative as a coalition and a consortium. We took the initiative to go through these two pieces of legislation and policy and looked back at our history as a country. Anytime that we have made a recommendation that we want an electoral system to change, we have not been very clear in terms of how we want that breakdown of representation to be. So when we were coming up with a model, we had to look at what Zambians would easily adapt to. Looking at the complexity of things to do with proportional representation, we need enough time for our electorate to be able to understand and comprehend the information. So we did learn from what other countries have done when we were designing the model. So this model recommends an addition of 60 seats, broken down as follows, where we have 26 seats for youth, 24 seats for women, and 10 seats for persons with disabilities. And the numbers are like this because we have taken into consideration the population dynamics that we have in Zambia. Persons with disability represent plus or minus 15% of our population, hence that decision. And then we also understand that we have been using first past the post for the longest time. And so we also did not want to depart from what people have been accustomed to. So we are expecting that these people are going to be drawn from the provinces. We are expecting that we are going to have a closed party list, as is the design of proportional representation, where you can choose between an open or a closed list. So we chose a closed party list because once those names of candidates are submitted to the election management body, the party does not have the discretion to change the list. And the way the hierarchy of votes is achieved and presented to the election management body, that is how seat allocation is going to be done once the results are done. So in our model design, we are saying that we want these people to come, like 2 people from each province. If you look at the number of provinces that we have today, we have 10 provinces, right? So it means that we are expecting to see 2 women from each province, that is 20, and 2 youths, male and female, from each province. Again, that makes it 20. And then 1 person with a disability from the provinces, that makes it 50. And then we are now going to see, because I said 26 and 24, right? So 26 for youth and 24 for women, which means that for the extra 4 and the extra 6, depending on how the parties score, seat allocation is going to be distributed on the basis of the threshold that is prescribed. So in proportional representation, the stakeholders, along with the electoral management body, in this regard, ECZ, agree on a minimum threshold. And that threshold is what they use for a party to qualify to get a seat. And if I give an example, for instance, we say we have elections done and we have, for example, 1,000 votes. And then we also say that the minimum threshold for a party to be able to qualify for consideration for a seat, they should be able to have attained 100 votes. Any other party that does not get 100 does not qualify to get a seat. And then should we have a scenario where we have the number of votes, maybe we have a party that has 99, we have a party that has 87, we have a party that has maybe 77, they do not manage to meet that threshold, and we have not achieved the number of seats that we want, then we use the largest remainder principle in terms of seat allocation, where we look at which number is nearest to the minimum threshold, and then we qualify that on that basis. But that is something that we need to share with the stakeholders. We need intensive sensitization with the electorate so that they're able to appreciate and understand. And we believe as a coalition and a consortium that this model is a guarantee for us. It's one step in the right direction where we are going to see an increase in the participation of these groups. And that doesn't mean that now, because we have a proposed mixed member electoral system, then these groups should be relegated to this category of elections. No. I think we are making a strong recommendation that a citizen still has the right to contest under the first past the post, either as an independent or as through a political party channel, should the party decide to appoint them, or better yet, if they don't meet or they don't manage to get through these 2 categories, they can still now use the proportional seats that we are advocating for.
Wonderful. So let's talk about the benefits. How is Zambia going to benefit once this MMES is implemented?
I would give an example of food. Okay, I like food, so I'll give an example of something that is in my comfort zone. If I keep eating shima and beans every day, I'm not going to be a healthy child. Very soon I'm going to be taken to the hospital and diagnosed with malnutrition because there are certain elements in my diet that are missing. So when we bring that mixture, we're going to have diversity. And when we have diversity, we're going to have people that are able to say and tell us, address the problems that they are facing as they would want them to be addressed. Right now in Parliament, the number of women had reduced. In the previous Parliament, we had about 26 women. In this current Parliament, there should be about 24 women. If we add 24 and the 24 we are recommending for MMES, we are going to get 48 women. And if we add an extra 13 from the youth category of the MMES, that number increases. It means that we have more people that are able to persuade the rest of the House in Parliament to tilt certain laws and legislation towards the benefit of women. And for us, we believe that this is one way we can sustain our development because we have voices in Parliament that are actually representing these constituencies they are coming from. Because today, we have a person with a disability in Parliament. But I don't think anybody has audacity and the mandate to go to that person in their capacity as a person with a disability to say, can you represent me on ABCD 1, 2, 3 issues? Not downplaying that Parliament has a committee for persons with disabilities and all that. But what we are saying is that once this model is done, those people who are going to go to Parliament are going to go there on the basis of representing this group of people. So me as a young woman, I'll be able to go to a parliamentarian who is a youth or who is a woman on the basis of the principle of self-representation to say, I want this matter presented in Parliament. I need your support to do ABCD 1, 2, 3. And so it makes it easier for us.
Let's take a short break.
Zambia Today is a program that keeps you informed on various government policies and programs. Join us every Tuesday at 18 hours on Zanis TV, Topstar Platform, Channel 6 DTT, and 458 DTH. Don't miss.
Welcome back. This is Zambia Today, and we are focusing on the importance of the mixed member electoral system. And we are privileged to host Mike Mvula, governance expert from Center for Young Leaders in Africa, SILA, Zambia. Mike, so in line with what we have been talking about, from your own perspective, can this model work in Zambia? And I also want you to cite some of the countries that have implemented these mixed member electoral systems.
The first question and my response, the first question is yes, it can work in Zambia and it should work in Zambia, largely because for over 20 years and beyond, we have demanded and recommended through different constitutional amendments, constitution-making processes that we need to move away from the first past the post kind of electoral system. It has failed to give us the numbers when it comes to representation of women, youth, and persons with disabilities. And more so because we do not have policies and legislation that compels political parties to ensure that these marginalized groups are integrated in their political party systems and structure. MMES for us as Zambia is the first of its kind. We have seen proportional representation working to an extent where there are certain places like Rwanda where we have seen a spike in terms of women representation. The leadership and the development of Rwanda today is something that we all are looking at as an inspiration. We have also seen countries in Europe, countries like Finland, where we have seen women thriving there. And so we have seen, if you look at the electoral map today, you look at the global map on the basis of elections, it is able to show you that countries that have the least participation of women are countries that are using first past the post as their means of choosing their leaders. And so we are of the view that this is a step in the right direction, and there is no electoral system that is perfect for any country. Electoral systems have to be tailored to the context of a particular country because our circumstances and situations are different. And so when we were designing this model, we actually did quite a number of consultations. We consulted stakeholders for a period of 4 years. We have been doing this from as far back as 2019 as a coalition. So we have the support not just of the ordinary citizen out there, but also there's belief and support from even the political parties themselves, because they see that this is a means of them attaining inclusion. Also, it is a means of them attaining and acquiring a seat in parliament as well as in local government.
Awesome. Do you have any advice for political parties on how to harness marginalized groups?
Yes, and I'm sure this is going to sound repetitive to political parties that we have been working with the last 4 years. Intention, intention, intention. I think political parties have to be intentional. My recommendation is that political parties should not just have systems and policies written down on paper. They should actually actualize those. And the president did allude in his remarks to one of the factors that has perpetuated the exclusion of these groups, which is violence, hate speech, cyberbullying. We need to move away from that. It is the responsibility of political parties to show us an example of what kind of governments they are going to give us by setting an example for themselves right in their political institutions. Let us have buildings that are friendly for persons with disabilities. Let us not have women being seen as dancers and chefs when men are sitting at the decision-making table and women are supposed to be waiters. When you and I know that 90%, most of rather our households today are female-headed, our population is a reflection of how young people have been able to be drivers of change. If they're able to decide and put the government that we have in place today, meaning that they have the competence also to sit at the decision-making table, because a ballot is a power to making a decision. So if we trust them enough to choose who should lead the nation, they should have then the capacity to sit at the table and also air their views. So let us be more intentional. We should not have national executive and national management committees with one person as a young person sitting at that table when you have 20 other people in the same room. How are they going to gain support from the rest of the house? So let's be deliberate. It's an opportunity for political parties to put the MMES to test in their institutions. And then when the time comes to argue whether this system is good for Zambia or not, they would have had a hands-on experience. That is my recommendation.
Great. Micah, thank you for making it to Zani Studios to give us that information. Very, very informative.
Thank you for having me, and thank you to everybody that took the time to listen. It's been a pleasure.
You're welcome. On behalf of the entire Zanis production team, this has been Faith Katai. Thank you for watching.